Good evening, boys and girls, ladies, gentlemen, fellow petrol heads. Day 2 of the GTC, whatever. We still haven't got a name for it, so like I said before, throw me some ideas. I'll shout you out in the comments if you're a successful picky. I've got a very cool hat on today. That's just to keep my head warm when I think, because it's still freezing cold. Old Trusty is doing its thing as always. So yeah, obviously you saw where we got to last time, so I have a quick recap and then I'm just going to dive straight into it because loads to do, not a lot of time, as always. It's always the same thing. So yeah, front all off, most of the engine base stripped down to the very bare bones. My focus today is going to be continuing to strip all of the front oily bits. So apart from steering, suspension components, wheels and brakes, everything is coming out. Well, engine block and gearbox may stay in. I don't know yet. I need to have that conversation with the old man later. See how far we want to go. I do want to pull it. Is my gut feeling? Is yeah. Let's just do it all. You know. So yeah. Radiator, fan, electric module for the ignition, hoses, etc. I mean, there's a whole host of little bits and pieces on the engine that need doing. Things like this breather line is cracked and bodged. These fuel lines are questionable, and it's not just there, they are also questionable a bit further down here. They are all very brittle, they are all very cracked. There is lead additive in this, but I would assume they're already brittle and cracked from the move from E5 to E10, and they're not the relevant hoses. We will be changing all of that over to proper Torx nylon, you know, ethanol rated hoses and bits and pieces. Things like this heater hose here, this has been bodged at some point in the past. This is not the right size hose that they've used there. They've clamped it down with a Jubilee clip, so you can see that splitting. It's also held on by a cable tie. It's got a piece of copper pipe shoved between it as a joiner. So again, there's a whole host of little bits and pieces on here that need to be changed and swapped out, etc. And also, whilst it's out, there's a big part of me that says let's get it out. Let's not strip the block, but let's get it out, get it back to its bare bones, check the timing chain and all of that nonsense on it and whatever else, and give the paint the block a lick of block, the block a lick of paint, that kind of thing. Obviously the red head, the red valve covers, rocker covers are going to go. I don't really like them particularly. Also that air filter is going to go. We're going to replace that with a stock style, probably not a stock one. I'm probably going to get one off of like a Hemi or something like that, but a stock black and chrome round one, just because I think it's going to be a little bit more in keeping with the theme of the car. But anyway, enough rambling. Let's crack on. have already had a look underneath, to be honest with you. Some more questionable findings, I'll be honest with you. No horror stories, some questionable findings. Also, the engine and gearbox is definitely coming out. That much has just been decided after I've looked underneath. My creeper is broken. I mean, it's the second wheel to fall off of it. The first wheel that fell off was that one, so it wasn't really a problem. Now this one's fallen off. It's kind of wobbles about a bit. Anyway, I'll throw that in there and ignore it. Let's go and have a little look, shall we, underneath? Right, let's have a look underneath. Right, I've got the lights out so that you can see what's going on. It might be a bit glary, so I do apologise if that is the case. But up front here, all looks good. This side of the suspension has been refurbed at some point. And when I say refurbed, I think it's just been like wire brushed and then someone slapped a fucking load of black paint with a brush all over it. This side is still very au naturel, which is fine. We can address that at some point. Importantly, though, all of the suspension stuff looks pretty good. There's no play in the wheel bearings. I mean, these wheel bearings are buttery, which is all good. They are very, very, very smooth. Yeah, so far chassis all looks good. Now this is an early late model, and all these chassis were galvanised at this age, I believe. So we should be good in terms of rust on the chassis because of the galvanisation. So far, for the third time, everything up the front looks good. I then start to scoot under the car a little bit. Come on. Probably be better off without the creeper, to be fair. We have got a coolant leak here. It also looks like something's donked this at some point because there's a little ripple in the radiator there. But we will address that. I will drain the coolant and have the radiator out in a minute. Moving further backwards, transmission fluid cooler has quite clearly seen better days. This bottom one is, looking at this bottom one has fallen foul to a grass verge or something at some point, and it's bent all these fins over. Doesn't look to be leaking, although this is quite a big bend on this bracket. It doesn't look to be leaking, but up in this corner here there is a Jubilee clip on a nut. Now I'm not sure why. Obviously you can see this nut here. There's a Jubilee clip around that nut. I don't really know why, and it does look like there has been some sort of leakage there at some point. Also, it's not meant to do that. You can see that bracket there is actually cracked. You might be able to see. I'll twist myself around this way a little bit better. It's actually cracked. So we will be on the hunt for a transmission cooler. Whether we go for an OEM style like that or whether I just fit a normal radiator style underneath. I mean, it's very unprotected down there, to be perfectly honest. And there's loads of room inside this cowling up the front. So it might be that we might retrofit something there, but we'll see. I need a new creeper. Right, so back underneath. Let me just turn these lights on so they're not glaring quite so much. Right, back underneath, and the front of the sump is very grim. And now looking at this, that doesn't look like oil. I think the majority of that is actually coolant and bits and pieces on there, mixed with a little bit of oil. So there's obviously, I mean, you can see it's kind of like leaking down from up above, and there's a few little bits and pieces of grime and whatever else. So we definitely need to be having a look at that. And then further back on the sump, there's quite a lot of oil. The starter motor is caked, and there's actually some droplets on the back of the plate here, flex plates behind there, on the back of the gearbox housing, bell housing. There's an old drippy McGee, and you can see it sort of dripped on the floor there. The only bit of floor in here that hasn't got oil on has now got oil on. And then as we go a little bit further back, we've got, like, you can see oil all up there. Back to the automatic gearbox, and you can see on the bottom of the transpan there, we've got more oil, which I'm assuming was probably, I don't know. It smells like engine oil, not fluid. So maybe it's not the pan that's leaking, like I first thought. But again, it's just so mucky and yucky and horrible, and there is a slight issue with sometimes selecting a gear. So I think that's kind of made the decision for me that we're going to have the gearbox and engine out to overhaul it whilst the car's off for paint. Why not? Let's just do it all at once and get it done right. A little bit further back,
you can see there is our electronic fuel pump going up to the carburetor, and these are like plasticky lines. So this is the bottom of the fuel line that I said that we need to change up top, and then it goes to like this plastic style line. It's not even rigid, it's like some weird rubber horrible stuff, and then some smart arse, hang on a second, just knock this creeper down. That's better. And then some smart arse over here. Do you know what? I'm gonna get rid of this fucking creeper. Fuck it off. I'll crawl. I will crawl. We'll go around the other side of the axle jack stands and go around the other side of jack stands and I'll show you. Right. And then right. And then back here is our electric fuel pump for the carburetor. That's very questionable. I've not even looked behind there yet, but I will in a minute. But also you can see we've come back to another questionable state of affairs here. Again, doesn't look like proper line. Don't know what this is. That's not the correct Jubilee clip to be using on fuel. So yeah, questionable. And then it is the same. If we swing around this side here, it is the same on the back of the fuel pump. So again, we need to have a look at that. And this one here, actually, that is transmission fluid. That's red. I don't know how well you can see that actually, because the lights aren't very bright. 2 seconds. Let me. There we go. Right, you can see that there. That's red. That is transmission fluid. There's quite a lot of it actually. Little one on the bottom of that line there. So clearly a substantial leak from somewhere. Assuming probably from that yoke in there. But again, we will need to look at that. You can also see it's kind of like gone on. It's just everywhere under here. Look, it's all over there. Everything. It's just yuck. So definitely engine and gearbox out, because I want to clean all this up. I want to get all this shit off, etc. Again, chassis looks good. There's no major spots of rust. Chassis legs look good. Obviously, the underside of the car is fiberglass, so we've got no problems there. As we go a little bit further back, we are seeing some bits of surfaced rust, but again, nothing that can't be wire brushed and undersealed to keep it fresh. And then I can't really get all the way down to the pig's head and the diff and everything, because it's a little bit tight, really. But if I spin the light around, you'll be able to see kind of what we've got down there. Again, another oil leak off the bottom of the diff housing. It looks much the same, fairly clean, apart from all the shit that's just flicked up and is stuck to all the oil. So yeah, I think that's the plan with that. Is we're going to drop the gearbox, drop the engine, drop the prop, get it right up in the air. Loads of sorry, hang on. There we go. Loads of degreaser, good old jet wash, a good old scrub, and get as much of that crap out of the way as we can.
Right then, I'm not sure where the time lapse finished off, to be perfectly honest with you. I think it was when we were trying to pull this gearbox off actually, but I have all now packed up. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning, so it is stupidly late. So I just wanted to get packed up so I can go home for a shower and a beer because I'm filthy and I'm tired. But I need to wrap this up so we can get this episode out. So yeah, engine is now on the stand. The gearbox is currently on the floor. Covered in shit, as you can see. Like, it is just absolutely caked. I mean, this is absolutely caked. You can see where I scraped a bit off there. You see how thick that is. So yeah, absolutely caked. So that was the main reason, well, reason number one for wanting to pull the engine and gearbox, so we can really just clean up all the stuff, the years and years of grime and bits and pieces. The snout was leaking, and actually it looks like someone's tried to silicone this at some point. You can see, like, that looks like a piece of silicone there, so we'll need a new snout seal on the gearbox. Apart from that, it all looks pretty good. I will excuse me, I will get a filter kit for this, and we'll just drop the bottom of the valve body off and just change the filters and everything on that. Obviously we'll sort out the engine, and like you can see how caked and grimy it is on the front there. Blah. So now that's on the stand, I can start working on stripping this down. Well, not yet, to be perfectly honest. Got to work on getting the rest of the body stripped and everything so that I can go for paint. But once the body goes off for paint, then I can work on getting this engine block all cleaned up and whatever else cleaned off, etc. Fresh coat of paint and bits and pieces. I've already got a massive shopping list of stuff in my basket for this. Valve covers are going to come off. We'll get them blasted. And I think what I'm going to do is actually send these off with the other bits of chrome and get them chromed, because I think a set of chrome valve covers would look pretty good on this with a nice matte black Edelbrock style filter on the top. I don't think it's going to be too over the top an American hot rod. I think it'll give it that nice balance, especially with the other chrome work on the car. I think it should probably blend in quite nicely. So yeah, we've got that. The exhaust will be what the exhaust will be. I'll look at that at the very end of the build, like that's the last thing to go on really. So that'll be good. Let me just show you the engine bay now, whilst everything's out. I love how high it sits, how much the suspension has lifted since since pulling the engine out. But yeah, so look, nothing disastrous in here. It's dirty, and obviously it was all going to need a scrub and a degrease, etc. Barring that crack on where the battery mounts on the body there. It's the only bit of the body that's got any real damage to it. There's a few little bits like here where it's been chipped with stuff, so this sort of stuff I'll get fillered up and sanded down before it goes to paint, and then they obviously will just paint straight over that. So yeah, we'll get all this cleaned up, we'll get the underside cleaned up, and then once it comes back from paint, we'll rectify all this extremely questionable fuel line and bits and pieces. Actually, and it's something I didn't pick up on and I didn't video it, but underneath here, when we dropped the when I was busy dropping the prop out, the fuel line was actually kinked almost all the way over. So I'm very surprised that it was really even pulling any fuel through at all, to be perfectly honest with you. Yeah, it wasn't happy like that, that's for sure. But yeah, we'll replace all these rubber hose lines. What we'll do is I will replace all of this with aluminium hardline, and the hardline fittings, and then we'll convert it to -6 AN fittings all the way up, so that it's actually got the proper fittings on it and not Jubilee clips and, you know, bits of hose shoved in bits of hose onto barb fittings, and, you know, just it's fuel, it needs to be right. It's like, you know, pretty much the most dangerous thing in the car, so let's, you know, make it right. So yeah, we'll do all that. The engine, the wiring and bits and pieces, I've got all my wiring bits and pieces over there, which is going to be used for the Fiesta, but actually seeing as I've got braided line and everything, if I get time, and I'm hoping I should get time, is I might do a wire tuck and get everything braided and sorted out nicely and in proper clips rather than fuel line clips like you can see just there, and, you know, yeah, so when it goes back together it'll be shiny, lovely and new. that is going to do it for this episode, because I'm sure you've heard me waffle enough now. So episode 2, engine and gearbox, is out. Next thing is trying to get down here during the daytime, roll this car out onto the driveway, get it jacked up as high in the air as I can do, and attack it with some degreaser and the jet wash. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think of the GTC build so far, and I'll see you on the next one. Ta-da!